the map that had the kids roll in, had the nanny like bounce them out of the room all dancing and shit. It's crazy, but people do it.
Yeah, I was just saying, you gotta think it's really to justify that. If I had a few million, but I didn't consistently make a few million, I still would have a caretaker, because I'd be using that money to invest, so that way I could live off of a yearly salary off of investment. Which still would only be like 50K per person. For the wife and I. That would be the ultimate goal. Not have to work to live. Like, I'd buy some people in the squad.
Alright, in just a sec, I'm going to flip us over to the actual feed, and we'll roll with introductions.
No.
Alright, Scotties, we should be live and broadcasting. Welcome to the call. We have Dustin Ross with here today, Sergeant Ross, as you may know. And he is one of our game designers for Off-World Industries. Would you like to introduce yourself?
No, I would not.
Sweet, we can move right along then. I do want to actually just jump right into what do you do with OWI for the people that aren't familiar with your contributions and what you do.
Yeah. I might as well just give a brief background, I suppose. I originally came onto the team through somebody who's no longer with the company, but at the time they got me in as a military advisor. So I spent 6 years in the Marine Corps Infantry, and that was pretty much all I really wanted to do at the time. But after a few months of being with the team, they finally decided that I might be a good candidate to be a game designer, so they told me to go learn how to do that. And then I went ahead and got promoted to that position. And at the time, well, I'd say, so as a game designer, pretty much like we help drive the vision and direction of gameplay that the founders have for the game. So like, even though for the most part, a lot of what players are dealing with in the game right now is something that the design team ends up making a decision on, we are essentially just carrying out what the original founders had planned for this product. So anywhere from like how vehicles or how much damage the vehicles take, how your guns handle, how much damage they do. The map layers are actually by the design team working in conjunction with the mappers to create the maps. So pretty much every facet of the game we touch.
Yeah, it's
a good, quick
kind of definitely a high-level explanation. Yeah, high-level position in the sense of you know what's going on in Squad. You have a lot to do with influencing what goes on in Squad, and it may very well come down to your yay or nay. Which you mentioned you kind of came on as a military advisor, and you've served valiantly for us, and including in your mocap sessions, which some people may have seen.
Oh Lord.
What did getting into game design look like for you? I mean, you say it was kind of, you came in as an advisor and like, I can do this. Obviously you have, that can-do attitude, but what did it look like for you to somebody coming new to that?
So I'll try to be as honest as possible here. I think the main drive, at least what the founders saw in me at the time, was more of the ability to provide leadership and direction for the company, because whenever the founders were first started working on the game, there wasn't like they all had their own disciplines, right? Merlin's a programmer by trade, Chuck is a animator by trade, so they were able to essentially put guns in the game, get bullets to fire, and model stuff. But as far as like how we're actually going to develop the gameplay, that wasn't really there. And I think a lot of my military backgrounds kind of helped being able to like smartly use that leadership that I had developed in the Marine Corps and bring that to the company is kind of what they were really interested in. And then as far as like all the additional stuff, that really just comes down to my desire to want to learn. So I mean, I'm like, this is one of the great things about the job is being able to be challenged every day. I'm always learning something new. Like right now, for example, I'm tweaking weapons handling, and there's actually parts of the system that require me to deal with the animation system. So like I'm learning how to deal a little bit. I mean, this is not crazy technical or anything, but it's like touching an animation montage. I don't do, like I haven't done really, and Chuck's been kind of helping me step through that, which is good because there are some things you can do to manipulate these things that doesn't require like having extensive technical animation knowledge. So this pretty much comes down to I don't have any formal design backgrounds. The only thing that really helps me out in this regard is I've been playing video games my entire life. Essentially, my dad got me into PCs in the early '90s, and I played FPSs competitively since the start of the late '90s, early 2000s with Tribes. Playing Quake multiplayer before then, and I just have a lot of experience in the first-person shooter genre. I would say the biggest thing though is being able to not just look at things from like a strictly player perspective, but um, being able to take aspects of my previous gaming experience, but also kind of getting have an understanding of like how that affects the big picture. So you may think like one item is a really good idea, but if you try to actually compare that to the rest of the game mechanics, like that actually can end up being detrimental to the game. So I think this is kind of where things start to differ between a bunch of players with ideas and game designers who have like an idea or a direction they want to take the game, and how like each individual thing they do affects the entirety of the game. So I mean, there's like something so small, for example, which I'll admit was a slight over. Like we just didn't notice that the fob mechanic had changed, totally a bug, but that seems so small, right? You're like, okay, so now fobs don't get disabled after like the overrun mechanic doesn't work. That one piece screws up the entire game. So as a game designer, those are the kind of things you have to consider, not just like, well, what if we add this? And I'm like, well, sure, there's a million ideas out there, but what's actually going to be best for the game overall, and how like one aspect touches 5 systems. So I think that's kind of where I think part of my leadership experience comes in with that. Like starts to work with the actual idea of being a game designer. Hopefully that wasn't too wordy and that answered your question, but there you go.
Yeah, and speaking as your underling, I can't say that we do see that organization come out especially when we're working with a lot of teams. Especially, the recap having just been published is a really good example of that. Like your work touches everything in the company and has a lot of moving pieces. And yeah, that's something that we do see a lot with the more we talk to developers, is that there isn't just a segment of the game. Everybody kind of has their primary specialty, but they have to know a little bit about this, a little bit about that, and how to at least talk to the other departments. With that complexity kind of exposed, I kind of want to flip that on you. And what would you say that like the most noticeable aspect of your work is to a player in game right now?
The most noticeable?
Yeah, what does
what
has your name on it that a player sees as kind of a like the first impression of a Ross touching the game?
I would say overall, the most one of the I guess would be the most upfront would be majority of the gameplay layers. It doesn't. I say that also because that spans like the entirety of the past couple of years. So it doesn't matter if you're a veteran or a new player. You've probably been influenced by me in some form or fashion simply by playing the game. So I would say that's it. Most recently, though, obviously would be V10. The lead, in conjunction with myself and the animators, of course, the new weapons handling system developed, but how that actually plays out on an individual level, that's a big part is my job, which is actually something I'm actively working on again right now, is tweaking the system. But yeah, those are probably the 2 biggest things at the moment. At least I would say like the most universal is definitely going to be the map layers. Like you like I said, old or new, you've touched like just playing the game. I've influenced your gameplay.
Yeah, for sure. And that's actually a really kind of good segue into we've just kind of talked about some of the updates that are coming to AAS and some of the concerns the community has had about them. Since you are directly working on that, I'd love to hear where you want to take AAS in kind of in light of the feedback we've gotten. That's been really fantastic.
So right now, we've been attempting to try to create. I would say it's pretty safe to say a new game mode, which is going to be the randomized AAS and oh well, something. I got a robot going off behind me. Um, anyways, yeah. So the randomized AAS now there's a little bit more work involved. So we're probably not going to get that for V11. So right now we're going to continue to have the static ones. Now we're looking at like 13 to 15 new layers, I think. Some of them being reworked, some of them brand new, some of them to accommodate new stuff. And so the rules for static AES are actually being worked on by a new game designer that we have. He goes by the name Fuzzhead. Some people who are in the PR community might actually remember him as being one of the developers for that. So he's actually modifying some of the rule set, like pretty much the rule set for the current AAS. We're giving him a little bit of leeway in that department. This is where I've kind of detached, I suppose, a little. I'm going to be redoing a couple Gordoc layers, but outside of that, he's actually trying to refine the current AAS rule set. So I don't have that much like of an influence at this point. But yeah, I think he's trying to see if we can kind of give players a bit more flexibility when it comes to gameplay. So I know, with like obviously the fobs being broken previously, really kind of drove, like regardless of what we did with the rules, players were going to stick fobs on center point objectives, like rush to center points and stick fobs on them. I mean, it just makes sense if you can just spawn endlessly without any ramifications. So um, even after that being fixed, he wants to take that step further and see if we can get players to kind of have a little bit more freedom and not feel pressured all the time. So the big one being bleed, for example. I know a lot of people we got a lot of feedback in our focus community testing and whatnot that like the bleed either needs to be reduced or removed. So I think right now he's trying to attempt to remove the bleed, except for the final flags. And I know some people are also like, if you're going to have the anti-rush mechanic on the flags, you should set them to be already captured, which I've already done on some maps, and we might end up doing for a majority of the maps. But that's something, like I said, I'll have to talk to Fuzzhead about, since he's currently working on redoing those rules. So in the future, past V11, I'm mostly going to be focusing on getting randomized AAS, and part of that also is maybe potentially doing some sort of fog war mechanic where the only way you can see the next flag is if you have adjacency to it. Like if you capture a flag, and then like the next flag will be revealed, which I know some people have. I know there's some criticisms with that idea out there, but I'm hoping it'll add a little bit of replayability. Also allow players to kind of move around the map a little bit more with having to worry about all of their flags getting rushed constantly. Even with like even if you don't know where the center flag is, you can't rush that either. So we'll have to see. I know there's some zerging and stuff like that some people will probably come up with, but hopefully it'll be a little bit more like reconnaissance style stuff going on. Because the enemy will know where their next flag is. You won't know where their next flag is though, but you could watch their true movements and see where they go. So we'll see. That we're just kind of trying to look at different ways we can kind of make AAS a bit more interesting, and we plan on keeping both. That is the intent. I don't know if we'll actually be able to. I've been talking with the programmer about it, but I'm hopefully we'll be able to have randomized AAS and what I'm calling right now, anyways, static AAS. I just like the idea that players have options, server admins will have options, and then in any type of competitive play that comes up in the future, they'll have the option to be able to have static maps that they can practice on. Because I know that was a big concern previously. So
Yeah,
it was a long, wordy way of explaining the future of AAS, but there you go.
yeah. Nero had a quick follow up on random AS. Is he would like to know whether that is just randomizing the layer for the map, or the flag locations themselves, or is there some other component to that?
It's probably going to look, people who are familiar with PR probably be kind of similar to that, with a little bit more variability in each location. So like right now, it's, I guess, long story short, you'll have like 2 to 3 different lanes So, I mean, let's just say you have a square, you'll have your north lane, your center lane, your south lane. Within those lanes, there'll be clusters of flags that it could choose from. I'd say the biggest risk with PR is PR usually only had like one or two extras it could choose from. So, like maybe three it would pick. Now, obviously, this is map dependent, but some maps you might have like 10 flags it could pick from. Because obviously, we don't want like it to be 100% randomized, where like a flag's all the way to the southwest, and then all of a sudden it puts your second flag all the way to the northeast. Like that would just be ridiculous. So you do have to keep kind of a general flow, a general direction, which obviously the map is what would determine, you know, how the map actually plays out, like what kind of flow we want in these particular lanes. But yeah, I guess it's kind of a long story short. There'll be multiple multiple lane variations, and then within each lane we'll have clusters of flags that get picked from. So similar to PR, just I think it's just a little bit extra, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean that makes sense to me, and I think that hopefully it makes sense to everybody else. I think it's kind of a good solution to the old like problem with Battlefield Conquest. So you're not just running in circles chasing the next flag. You have a little bit more to it that gives you some tactics and logistics to worry about. And kind of on that topic, Pliskin wants to know, are there any changes coming up to encourage logical movement transport across the map? Currently, it doesn't really incentivize using the truck or APC for transport, in favor of like letting it die once it's casting it away. And I think there are some cool changes coming up for that, and I just wondered if you had any insight into that, both from the mapping level and mechanics.
No, not currently.
Right on. Okay.
Not going to go into detail about that.
I think, I mean, you have touched on some of that with the changes to AAS and trying to make, troop movement and more valuable as a intel gathering and kind of just logistically getting people there, where if the team has to move more, you're going to need more logistics.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we'll see. I will say, I guess at the end of the day, we'll see how it ends up playing out. If we're able to kind of get players to not want to constantly rush a central point, then I think players will just going to want to use transport to places. They're going to have to do it out of necessity. Otherwise, they'll just be like running everywhere. I mean, we're going to try to do our best. So we've working with Fuzzhead to try to do our best to kind of do that. But at the end of the day, sometimes players don't always want to wait on transport. So we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're always going to have players that are looking for more of an instant action fix, regardless of how they get there. And if that means, blowing themselves up and spawning at the fob, that's something that is going to happen. Yeah. But it is something that we do look at as player behavior is very important as part of the process. It
is. Just about part of it too is kind of some of the audience that we're targeting. We're kind of getting into, our net is casted a bit wider than say PR was at the time. So even for me, I played probably a couple years with PR, and my personal perspective, for example, I'm not a huge vehicle guy, but even whenever I needed transport to go somewhere, sitting there for 5 minutes waiting on a dedicated warrior squad to come pick me up was still a thing. Like, that still had to occur in PR. We had to do it quite a bit. That's not always conducive to certain individuals' play styles. So, I mean, we'll do the best, like I said, we'll do the best we can to try to incentivize the use of them in situations where it makes sense. But at the end of the day, there's still going to be people who just want to get to where they want to go without having to wait. Some people just, want to run 3 minutes instead of waiting for 5. We'll see. We'll see how it turns out.
And one thing I picked up in there and that I've seen kind of cropping up more in the dev team lately is the word incentivize, where we are looking at making ways of making the game more fun to play rather than getting the meat grinder. Kind of looking at the path of least resistance should be more fun. And that's kind of incentivizing the game. Incentivizing playing and having fun has been a kind of a focus lately, especially with looking at some of the tweaks that are going on with the fobs and things like that, where, we realize that that's not so much fun. We're trying to incentivize making it fun.
Yeah. Well, I guess, people always talk about, like, the rally points, for example. So, there's likely going to be some changes to the rally points in the future. Spawn mechanics, I guess, would be a slightly more detailed way of saying, like, as far as incentives for wanting to use transport, obviously the spawning right now especially with regards to rally points, isn't exactly where we want it to be. So it's I think another thing that myself and Fuzzhead are going to be working together on. He has a whole lot of ideas on potential ways to kind of fix this stuff. Where yet again, not only will the game mode probably incentivize the use of transportation vehicles. Obviously, helos is going to be another huge one. People are going to actually want to use those for transport, but also spawning. Spawning is going to be a big way that we can kind of drive players to want to use transport. I mean, at the end of the day, we don't want to force anybody to do anything, right? I mean, it's still kind of a sandboxy type style game, so we still want to give you the options. We just obviously want to, as you stated, we'll give incentives, but I don't want to put you in a situation where you have to play Running Simulator 5000. That's not my goal. Did a lot of that in previous games, and it's not always not necessarily where we want to go. So
yeah, I think anybody that's spent time playing PlanetSide or any of the kind of large-scale warfare games knows that unless you have that one-person vehicle certification where you kind of have to run into the middle of the firefight and hope for the best, it's not always fun to transport yourself.
Yeah.
I did want to catch on that. You had mentioned the Warrior. Is there anything we'd want to talk about the Warrior for the upcoming future, maybe?
The Warrior. What is there to say? It's going to be with the British faction, so and we're going to be releasing the British faction.
Yeah,
what do you want? What do you want to know, sir? What do you want to know
I don't know. I was just there was a leaked graphic out recently that had some footage of a perhaps gun cam. So just wanted to.
Did we do that? I don't think that was
part of
actually...
Chuck's Giphy account, so it didn't quite make it into the recap. So there was some bonus content out there for folks that didn't see that. But
I saw comments. Somebody was like, "There's no way OWI would like put that up there on his Giphy account without actually being intentional." I'm like, I think Chuck just doesn't always care or think he's. I don't know what to tell you about that one. That was not intentional, actually. But people went through his account and saw it.
It was something that we had kind of slated for the recap, but didn't quite make it in, and
yeah,
it is a bonus. It was intentional. Don't let anybody get upset about that. There were some people that were worried.
That's not even the correct gun cam, anyways. I think that's going to be. I think that's intended for the commander scope or something like that. I'm pretty sure that's not the gun camera. I know some people
that might have been my misquote, yeah.
They're like, that's the incorrect Bradley gun cam. Like, here's the real one. I'm like, don't worry, we know that wasn't really meant to be the Bradley gun cam like leak or anything. That was just an unintentional placeholder kind of situation. So
yeah, it was something that looked kind of cool. That reminds me, just today they were using references from actual Russian BTR manuals to figure out the exact firing switch in the developer chat today. So these guys really do pay some hyper-specific attention to detail. We had to reach out to somebody in the community to help translate a Russian tank manual. That's the specificity that a lot of these folks go to in really chasing down the parts of the game they love.
Yeah, I mean, we always try, especially visually and audibly, we try to do our best to be as authentic as possible. And if the realism suits our gameplay needs, then we'll definitely try to get as close as possible. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. I think we even do that sort of thing too, where we go out of our way to try to find like documentation through really strange means in order to get what we need. Like right now, where I guess we're looking at the SPG-9 optic. They were able to find like the actual manual for it through some other means that you normally couldn't by just Googling. And so they're kind of working through that right now. So we try to do our best too. We also brought in another Russian advisor to kind of help facilitate advisement, since we've only had pretty much one dedicated guy for a while, and he's not always available. So we got somebody from the community who's helping out now as well, help make sure that stuff happens. And we actually we have contacts with an active duty Bradley guy, and we're going to do our best to try to get as close as possible without completely breaking the game.
Yeah, and Reptile here had a question. How heavy will the armor in the IFV be? We're aiming to have those accurate values. That was actually part of the recap. We announced kind of an improved damage model. And the intention is to make sure that you can actually have different armor values around the vehicles. You can actually have penetration values, angle of attack. These are things that are going to be coming in
Yeah,
Soon,
and also
essentially.
it also takes in the account for the angle in which a projectile hits the armor as well. So some people might know that there's there's a difference between actual armor and effective armor or oblique armor. So you can have like 10 millimeters of armor, but if it's slanted, the actual effective armor as a round passes straight through it, for example, is actually increased, right? And now turns into like 12 millimeters of armor or whatever. So there's some things. Now, of course, since you hit on it, I'll just say that this is the first iteration, by the way, which you guys saw in the recap. It is still a straight hit point based mechanic. It's just now different parts of the vehicle will check for different penetration circumstances. How do I word this? Anyways, and then we'll apply damage based on what the armor thickness was. So I mean, like right now, it still might take like 3 rockets on the side of a Bradley or something. These aren't the actual official values. I'm just saying, like, whereas like the rear will take 1 rocket, and we'll set it on fire and then blow up in 5 seconds or whatever. So that's also going to occur. The next step, though, is going to be what I think players are probably really anticipating is the component damage, and that's where it's going to start getting more interesting because you can track a vehicle, right? Like so right now, for example, tracks have their own armor value. Well, the next step is whenever you hit that, if it does damage, it'll just do damage to the tracks, and then if the tracks run out of hit points, then your track is disabled. Now, some of that damage may also be transferred to the main hull of the vehicle, but so like you might actually have a working vehicle, like an operating vehicle that can't drive, or you'll hit the turret, and once the turret's HP is 0, you can't use your gun anymore, but you can still drive it. That sort of thing. So that'll be kind of like the next step, and this is actually going to be important for our other sister project that we're working on as well. So
cool, yeah, and hopefully that addresses both Dr. Hax's project about IFVs being resistant to LATs, and we had friendly Nikolai ask if kind of about tracked vehicles taking damage. I did want to jump back real quick. We had Dan Twitch, I believe was his username. He wanted to know if people are ever going to be hurt after jumping out of a moving vehicle.
Yes, that is planned.
Cool.
As with anything, everything has a caveat as planned. But for me, for example, whether or not it gets done is a different story. But for me, I would say that is a requirement to finalize vehicles for 1.0 would be to actually have different effects occur. Say, like the vehicle at full speed slams into a wall, it should take damage. If you jump out of a moving vehicle at a certain speed, you should get injured or killed. If you run into a player at a certain speed, that player should be injured or killed. So yeah, I mean that I would say there's a high likelihood that will occur at some point.
That's cool, and people are excited that tracked vehicles are confirmed there. Yeah, they are going to be there. That's part of war.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. CML Fairs 33 is curious if there's any information released about what happens when a vehicle is immobilized. How does it get repaired in the field? Is that something that we can talk about yet? Is it?
Well, since it hasn't really been finalized, not really. But I will say that the last kind of discussion that we had about it was, we want crews to be able to get their vehicle moving again. We don't want them the ability to completely repair their vehicle by themselves. They're just going to get out there and like magic blowtorch that thing to 100% health. But we do want to afford them the opportunity to at least get their vehicle in some sort of mobile situation where they can in fact go and get to a repair station at a fob or whatever. So there'll be a little. The last talk is there'll be a little bit of the crew being able to repair its own vehicle to a certain degree, but then ultimately, depending on how critically damaged the vehicle is, it will need to go and get repaired. There's still some talk about like, are we going to let logistics, Logi trucks be able to repair vehicles like they did in the PR where they dropped off like a little thing. That's definitely a possibility because we do actually want to give Logi drivers more things to do than to just like drop like logistics off in ammo or do a one-time run and then leave the Logi truck in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, as
So
somebody that did enjoy the ant runs and logi runs in this game, I'm looking forward to seeing a little bit more, to be able to capture those moments of excitement when you're rushing in at the last minute and playing the logistics hero. Like, that is a cool thing that is sometimes lacking currently. And yeah, having more stuff to do as a logistics driver is a good idea.
yeah. And by the way, for some of the for some of those guys who are really into realism, you may or may not know, but most like IFE or AP or even APC or tank crews are trained in basic maintenance of their vehicles, especially when it comes to their tracks. So if they have disabled tracks, like Crew and Abrams, for example, they know actually how to get out and replace pieces of their track and get their vehicle moving again. So that's kind of where this idea is coming from as well. We don't want to leave them just completely stranded waiting for hours for somebody to finally decide to get into a Logi truck or whatever to repair them.
Right, as we kind of touched on earlier, it sucks to
But
be
we'll
stuck
see.
there playing the running simulator.
Yeah, but we'll see what ends up panning out. But
Let's see here. There was a
on.
question from Covalent Bond, I believe, about are we ever going to see
Covalent Bond.
Yeah. Vehicle
Chemistry.
And actually, I see Sweaty Left. Someone has. I'm not going to finish that name because I don't want to say that on camera.
Sure.
Vehicle stabilization in turrets has been mentioned, but they're curious about other optic options. We've talked a little bit about options. Are thermals going to be a thing, especially with a balance looking at the new vehicle model where vehicles are going to become a lot more squishy?
Yeah. So, well, just to be clear, this new damage model isn't necessarily going to make them more squishy. In some instances, it'll make them more powerful. There are certain vehicles right now where if you shoot at them, right now you can shoot them anywhere with a 50 cal and they'll blow up. Whereas now there's going to be some vehicles where if you shoot them from the front, they'll take 0 damage. They'll just reflect the rounds, like they won't penetrate, or they'll just, nothing will happen. So kind of depends on how you look at it. I would say it's more versatile, and you have to be a bit more cognizant of where you shoot a vehicle. I don't know necessarily making them squishier, but anyways, as a side note.
Yeah, I think anecdotally, we had one of the developers in chat this morning was playing with that and actually was tickled pink with seeing his tracers bounce off the front of armor and kind of shoot off the other direction. So
yeah,
that is a cool thing.
According to our effects lead, that can also apply to like AP shells, like tank rounds, rockets, shit like that. So we might actually have something to where like RPG. I don't know if this is going to be the case. Like mechanically, it might just be a visual thing, but we'll see. But he does have the ability, so maybe one day we'll actually get to a point where we can actually like bounce off RPGs and stuff if they hit the wrong angle, since we are checking for angle already. Anyways, as far as your question regarding to optics, we are active. I don't know about actively, but we off and on we have been prototyping thermals. I know that we're probably going to be experimenting soon with the toe emplacement. That's not going to be put in the V11. It's still going to be a daytime optics site. But as far as the thermal imaging site for the toe, I think we're going to be experimenting with after V11 a little bit. As far as balancing is concerned, we're just going to try and see if we can even make it work correctly. And if we can, then we'll think about how we're going to balance it. Because obviously the most, I guess the maybe not the most prevalent, or what's the word I'm looking for, the most basic balancing option is to just limit how far you can see. I know some games have done that in the past where at a certain point it just kind of like blacks out, right? Like you just see a shadow, you don't see anything anymore. So they reduce the sight distance. We'll see. I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll be able to put in some interesting mechanics that'll help balance it out. Obviously, using terrain, buildings, trees, and stuff like that actually blocks thermal imaging, which is why people in real life use those assets whenever aircraft are around. But I don't know. We'll see what other things can be done. I mean, obviously, once we get to a point where we're actually going to seriously consider putting thermals in, that's probably where we'll ask the community too of like what their ideas are on how they would like to see that done. But we'll see.
Right on. I do want to shift gears, but before we do that,
Sure.
I'm going to go to GDC and the air assault, which are both really cool things. But there's been enough talk in the chat now that we should touch on it. Are there any changes coming to weapon mechanics? How do you feel about where things are right now?
Yeah, that is an interesting topic that I don't want to talk about. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, actually, that's actually if I was not in this stream right now, I would actually be working on weapons handling. So that's what I'm doing right now. So
Yeah, that was
I
part of the
guess
reason I didn't feel so bad ambushing with you. That is, you had mentioned actually a few minutes ago that you
sure.
had been in editing values very recently.
Yeah. Um, so we have a focused community feedback channel that we've been kind of getting some stuff from since what, a couple weeks, maybe maybe a few weeks after V10 went out. Trying to get a nice pool of people in there, so it's not completely biased one way or another, just so I can kind of get a clear picture. So things
I
like
do want to
settles.
interrupt you right there and point out that if you have not heard from Nordic and you are interested in having your community involved in that, do reach out to Nordic. There was an announcement recently in the general Discord, so get in on that if you are looking forward to that sort of thing.
Yeah, sorry if I was like accidentally threw somebody under the bus there, but not trying to. And obviously, we aggregate data from Reddit and the forums and all sorts of places. But yeah, so I mean, it stems anywhere. Something as small as like the machine gun camera shake being reduced slightly, all the way up to like settle sway is getting looked at and reduced. There's some extreme examples of that. There's some um, like recoil stuff going on with the M4. I'm looking at a lot of the like um, horizontal aspects of the M4. I'm going to be adjusting. There's probably going to be a few other systems or a few other weapons that I'll probably be adjusting that a little bit. That's probably the biggest offender though right now. I mean, just even on the back end, like mechanically, I can tell you straight up that like the M4 is definitely the most left right or horizontal recoil. It's the most extreme variant, I suppose you could say. So there's gonna be something like that. There's also like weapon transition. I'm actually looking at my notes for all the things that I'm working on. Um, yeah, even things like stance transition when you're ADS. Before, whenever you went from like crouch to standing, your weapon would like do this thing, like that. We're pretty much completely removing that. For example, what else do I have? There is. Oh, I actually found what I don't know. I don't even know if players realize this, but I actually found a problem with the sights misaligning every it's seemingly every other time you ADS, your weapon will actually start like this and then align itself. So instead of immediately moving into its correct sight alignment, it'll actually start like this, which I could fix. We have everything else perfect, but if the weapon's doing this, that's still milliseconds you're losing on target, right? So I'm actually looking into getting that fixed. ADS timing. So like time, sorry, I should say timed ADS. I'm looking at improving on some weapons. More than likely going to be speeding it up. At a minimum, I'm probably going to be at a minimum, I'm probably going to be speeding up timed ADS for iron sights. And then there's also a kind of an animation driven movement of the sights that occurs right now that I'm going to try to reduce as well. So that way on single fire, it isn't as a drastic at covering up the target. So just little things like that.
Yeah, and I think it's worth reiterating that there's still, guns coming to Squad there, and some have appeared in recaps there if you're paying good attention. So these are values that are constantly ongoing, and we do look at like the actual weapons and how they perform, and so if you're ever in a position where you absolutely hate something in Squad, at this point it's not static. Like it might change. Let us know. Your feedback is what helps. We want to hear back from you. So yeah, like
Yeah.
we appreciate your feedback. That is an important thing, and we've heard you that weapon handling is a little not to your liking, and we're working on it.
Yeah. The I will annotate this though that at the end of the day, the base system is for, at least for now, is here to stay. So there's still going to be somewhat of a normal, what do you say, like a normal distribution when it comes to the recoil pattern. It's not going to be 100% back to the way it was in V9 or anything like that. Anybody has any illusions that we're going to go back to attaching the camera directly to the gun again? That's not going to happen. Overall, we're relatively happy with how the gunplay has kind of um, gotten more of the feel of what we intend for Squad to be like. But yeah, as far as as far as the issues players have with the current, like with the new system, all the things I stated, I mean, those are just some of them. There's still other things that we're looking at, but of course, there's other things that go along with, somewhat with gunplay. For example, would just be like prone to standing transitions. We're going to help kind of get people to be a bit more fluid so that they can get those engagements a little bit more. I would say easier, because we're not really necessarily looking for easier, but more fluid, I guess. So, anyways.
I had just watched a GDC talk about Blizzard taking 3 frames of lag off the hardware cursor in StarCraft and how that made the difference for the pro players that are doing 400 actions per minute. If you added 3 frames,
Oh
so
Lord, yeah.
stuff like that cascades out. And I bring this up mostly to segue into GDC and hear kind of like what your takeaways were. A lot of our developers were there last week for the event, and it is kind of a really big industry event that might not trickle out, but it's where a lot of learning happens, and we're pretty excited about things we've heard there. So I'd like to hear some of your takeaways.
I'll start just with as the team as a whole. One of the biggest things that we really focused on, and whether or not people believe it here in chat, but not oddly, but a big part of what our team was doing was optimization talks. A lot, especially because of Fortnite's success, and obviously being an Epic game that runs on the Unreal 4 engine. They're 100-player, large-scale open worlds kind of game. It's very people would be like, it would behoove you to go to those, so we did. I think a lot of attention, a lot of our time at GDC was spent at going to optimization talks. So some of it was, from what I heard from the other developers, was like we at least have some things we're doing. We're on the right path. Like we're like not that it's happening right now, but that like the things that we're thinking about doing is good. But there's also other things that we kind of reaffirmed, like we might possibly have to do like a 420 engine upgrade in the future. It might, just like Fortnite has caused Epic to spend so much time now optimizing their own engine that we might have to break our never again kind of model, which at the end of the day could be great for players, right? So optimization is a huge one. As far as me personally being a game design and community lead, as we talked about, I went to several design talks from Ubisoft for Rainbow Six Siege. That was a really good one, by the way. I absolutely love theirs. It was about their marriage between their design team and their game analytics team. So they actually have data analysts, and before they all operated kind of like separately from each other. But then they realized that at the end of the day, like, data can be misinterpreted. It could be telling you that like, Blackbeard is screwed up, and it might be telling you what's screwing it up, but it might be telling you how to actually fix it. So they might have one idea, but the data analysts are like, dude, I'm telling you, if like we did the math. Like, we are math people. It says if you set this to 60 hit points, it's going to work. It's going to fix your issue, So that was actually a really informative one. And then the community side, a lot of my focus was on kind of reducing toxicity in the community and improving trust with the development team and with the company, and through the use of like reporting tools and how to get players to actually use the reporting tools and trust that they're actually being looked at and utilized. I'd say a big portion, big takeaway is just like what we can do to build healthier communities, happier and healthier communities, because the happier and healthier community is, the longer it's going to stick around and play the game. And as long as you can maintain that really good solid core group, people, it'll help drive the game for longer. So.
Yeah, and one big development that came out of that recently was people like Blizzard and some other major studios forming what they called the Fair Play Alliance, which was doing a lot of these talks where they're trying to combat a lot of the issues that are going on. Where, yeah, it's important to realize that, like, if people come into a game where there's a lot of toxicities, they're going to leave and not come back, and that's not fun for anybody. I mean, yeah. So yeah, that's really kind of reassuring to see the industry kind of jumping on that as an initiative and not just kind of a haphazard approach where, yeah, it's exciting to see that coming.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing is that, Unreal Engine is still something that's very much in development, and, I think every day we find another, weird, like today there was something about, material meshes that has, been a bug in 4.6 that has caused some performance, degradation. So we're always looking at those things, and updates are something we consider, but the Unreal Engine, literally isn't done yet, and it has a lot of weird things that go on. I mean, I think everybody has a tale of a weird checkbox that has gone horribly awry somewhere along the way.
Yeah, sometimes it's just like tessellation was running in the background, that was always a big one. Man, when was that occurred anyways? Was that no, that wasn't 4.8. 4.8 was probably one of the more stable builds. I can't remember. We had a build an official build a while back where like people were just getting massive, like sudden massive frame rate issues, and it was just like a checkbox. We had like tessellation running in the background, even though there wasn't actual tessellation occurring in the game. It was just running in the background. It was like killing everyone's FPS. And it was just like setting it to true or false. It was such a silly thing, but it happens. I don't. You're always learning and finding new things too. But like I said, as far as optimization, it's Epic has really kicked their stuff into gear with the success of Fortnite. So we can only benefit from that at this point.
As I believe Bull jumped in to point out that it was the Mestia release. I think it was something on the barn textures that had got conflicted, and hashtag blame Axton. So I don't know if we'd have to place the entire blame on Axton for that, but I'm
Right.
content to do that. He is a horrible, horrible person that does wonderful, wonderful maps. So.
I'm extremely excited for Camdish. Not gonna lie,
Yeah, Cam
pretty
Dash is looking
excited.
great. I mean, that is another thing worth touching on is that those maps are going to have the benefits of a lot of the layers we were talking about earlier. Those are ongoing game design things. We continue to learn and improve and optimize as we go along. It's kind of, as another Blizzard talk says, polish isn't something you do in the last 6 months. It's something that you have to be kind of considering all along. So yeah,
Yeah,
like those are things that we constantly learn. We constantly apply new techniques. Axton came to us with this really awesome shader technique out of the community, and eventually became an official dev as his work came into the game. And that's the sort of thing that we were fortunate enough to be able to do because like you said, you came as a military consultant, became part of the community, and then dove into game design and have really helped to improve Squad. So it is a really cool and fortunate thing for us that we can pull from dedicated people in the community that just happen to love making games.
oh yeah, yeah. It's a great
Which,
way to do it.
speaking of pulling people from the community, after you left GDC, we flew you up to Vancouver for the final part of the Stack Up Air Assault, where we brought a couple folks in from this squad community, veterans that were, they applied and were chosen at random through Stack Up, and we brought them in to do a motion capture session. And you were fortunate enough to be there, so if you could kind of tell us a little bit about your experience there, I'd love to hear.
It was terrible.
And that's all we have now.
And that's it. All right, stream's over and we're done. So some of you guys may or may not know, but we've actually been working with Stack Up, which is a veteran and active duty driven charity organization within the gaming space. So they do a lot of veteran outreach, but they also do some active duty stuff like sending care packages to active duty troops and or doing like these air assaults where they'll select some veterans, find what games they're passionate about, and then actually go and send those veterans to the developers of those games. So for us, we ended up I don't know, maybe I missed that part. It's kind of what I was trying to say. We've been working with them for what, 2 years now, 3 years, 2 years. We've been doing it for about 2 years. And so kind of like this next thing was, they asked us if we wanted to do an air assault, and we were like, sure, man, I think we might want to be doing some more animation stuff. So why don't we put them in the game? And they were like, what? That's weird. Like, haven't had that happen before. And for us, we were just like, I mean, that didn't seem too strange to me. We need actors. I mean, I don't care if they're, I don't care if they're veterans or not. Like, they just seem normal to us. But they were like really stoked. They're like, holy crap, you're actually going to put them in the game. So we were like, yeah, why not? So we sent them up there, and both these guys were fantastic. I mean, not only was Stack Up amazing, Dave, who was their veteran director, but pretty much kind of like their handler while they were up there, just to make sure they're able to get to where they need to go and whatnot. Was fantastic facilitating the whole program, and the two veterans that we had there, Bill and Harry, were like fantastic. They had a blast doing it. And they loved it. We got to hang out with them before and after some of these things that we were doing. I think there were some pictures of them at the restaurant with us. So they're just really good, down to earth guys. And what I thought was really neat is, Harry, for example, he's actually Australian Defense Force. Like we didn't just pick just U.S. guys.
Yeah, this is actually the first truly international stack-up air assault that's been done. It's bringing people to a different country and having, like you said, the Royal Australian Defence Force is in effect. And of course, like this was the first time they got to really do something kind of really like this. Where previously it had been going to PAXs, and yeah, I'm glad we could be a part of the first really international thing, especially because we are such an international team.
Yeah, I mean, as Chris likes, or Iron Texas likes to tout recently, at least he's counted up to 17 different countries on our development team. So, it's definitely feels nice. We even have an Aussie on our team, so it was kind of cool to get him in there. And it wasn't necessarily like the intent, but it's just the way it worked out, and it was really cool to meet him. And by the way, like, outstanding individual, man. He's a really great guy. So. I usually always love hanging out with Australians anyways. I've done some travel like in Western Europe and stuff like that, and they're always around everywhere and really, really cool people to hang out with. They could be a little rambunctious sometimes, but that's all right. So can Americans. So.
Yeah, I believe we had one of our resident Australians in chat a few minutes ago, Chance Bra, hanging around. He's confirmed that he has been drinking, which is pretty much how it should be. Yeah. It is late at night there for him on a weekend, so there is no reason he should not be.
I mean, can you blame him though? I mean, he has to live his life upside down. There's no telling what all that blood rushing to his brain will do to you. And
that makes mapping very hard. So we should point out that like his work on a lot of these maps that are coming out, he has to do all this shit upside down and backwards.
I don't know how he does it. Toilet goes the wrong direction. I don't know. It's weird.
We did have a couple questions.
Sure.
I had lost the name real quick in the scroll, but Russian red dot sites, are they ever going to be a thing?
I don't know that I'm allowed to discuss that, actually.
It is a controversial topic, yeah.
We're gonna save that one. We'll just pin it, and we'll just leave it at that. Just pin it. I don't want to get in trouble, so I don't want anyone else to get in trouble. So,
I did want to touch on. Someone did mention
what else?
That they hadn't heard about suppression, and that is a system we are, that's a thing that we've talked about a little bit in the past, and that's still in the works.
Never,
so never coming.
No, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to point out that suppression is a system that is something that is in the works and something that we're looking at for Squad, so that will tie into weapon handling and stuff as well. But yeah, did just want to. Somebody was excited to hear that suppression was a thing. Suppression is a thing.
Who said suppression was a thing? Did we put that in the recap?
It was in a couple recaps ago. Although, in the meantime, since we're talking about conspiracy theories, somebody wants to know if you are a flat earther.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, there's what is it? A giant turtle that lives underneath? No, I am not a flat earther.
Yeah, that was Ituchi. So we can confirm to Ituchi that Ross is not a flat earther.
I am not a flat earther. Sorry to disappoint any flat earthers out there who love Squad, but
just to jump back into the motion capture session, a lot of people wondered what we were capturing.
So were you just mentioning, or were you just answering that guy's question about suppression?
Yeah. I just want to jump. I mean, you didn't seem like you had a whole lot to say about it. So if you'd like to jump in and kind of talk about what you have in mind for suppression, I would totally be stoked to hear that too.
Oh. Well, there's actually already a working prototype that our technical animator has come up with, kind of loosely based on some previous discussions that we've had in the past. Suppression, an actual the next step of the suppression system has actually been talked about for years now. Actually, I mean, what we have right now, the visual and audio aspect only, that's not the final intent. That actually hasn't been the final intent for years, but it wasn't until recently, as we all know with V10, where we actually were able to get to a point where we had the animation refactor occur. So it was a working prototype. there's going to be some physical interactions that will occur. So, I mean, pretty basic. There's already like a snap spheres, for example, right? So around every player, that's where you get your visual and audio cues from. We can start tying into effects on the player itself. So there's more than likely going to be actual effects that occur to you. Now, how extreme those are, or how frequent they are, still kind of up in the air. Because like I said, it's just a prototype. There may be some additional functions of this that we may add. But right now it's pretty basic. I mean, I would say it's kind of like RO2 at the moment in a sense. Red Orchestra 2, if anyone's played that, it's a little bit like that. But some of it's also kind of based on my own feedback, just realistically, what's like the closest thing we can get to real life, other than the real effect of suppression is actually the fear of death. Actually, like for example, I'll just say that, like, as a professional anyways, insurgents or whatever you say, untrained people is different, but as a professional, there's actually kind of like a heightened sense of awareness and like a focus that occurs. So, some people think, like, in real life, the fear of death, like, sure, yes, it kind of establishes how you interact with contact with the enemy, sure. But as a professional, at some point, once you've established fire superiority and everything, you actually kind of get into like a battle rhythm, is what we call it, right? And you actually, like, you can actually get more, I wouldn't say more accurate, but you become like more focused and emboldened. And so this idea that, like, you're just sitting there with your head down during the entire firefight, that actually doesn't happen. In fact, you kind of start getting more into it. Like, the adrenaline starts hitting, and you actually start wanting to fight more. At least that's how Marines do, anyways. I don't know about other people, but so, some people think, like, overall, suddenly it like affects you. So when we talk about suppression in the game, we're trying to establish player behavior, right? We want to try to ensure that suppression is an effective tactic. We can't instill fear on anybody. We can't instill the fear of death on anybody, but we can potentially help try to drive player behavior. Like, maybe you're not as accurate when you shoot, sort of thing. So, because otherwise, like, if we were to do like actual realistic suppression outside of the fear of death, we might even make you more focused, and you have like your stamina would increase, and you have all these effects going on, and you'd actually just become like a super soldier in a video game because you got suppressed. Like, we can't do that, obviously, or we shouldn't do that. So,
Yeah, no laser.
I know that was a bit lengthy. It was a little bit lengthy, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, like, what can we do to incentivize the kind of player behavior we want to make suppression effective, but not overbearing, right? We still want you to be able to fire back and everything, and be able to defend yourself, is how I would put it. You still should be able to defend yourself and not be completely debilitated. Some people want, like, the screen to, like, look straight at the ground, like you're snapping around whenever you get shot at and stuff like that. Like, I don't know where we're going to go that route, but that was actually part of the prototype, by the way. Like, what you see some games do when you get hit, you have like the camera flinch. That was actually part of the suppression prototype. Not sure we're going to keep that, but like we're toying with things.
Yeah, and I think that's like another component of the weapon systems that, these are all things that still are coming together and being revised, and we want your feedback on those. So, keep it coming.
Yeah, there's like a million suppression threads at this point too. I mean, we've looked at them all. I have like an entire bookmark just dedicated to suppression with like 2 years worth of forum threads and stuff like that. So we'll see. But that's the word, by the way, the Neuro's talking about. It's called aim punch. Yes, that is where, like, when you get hit, like you see in some games, you get hit, your camera like snaps or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, as far as like wounding and whatnot, like when you, like, what I'm talking about, getting hit, as you're saying, it has been discussed, yes, and it is a mechanic that, like I said, is actually in the prototype, so it could be applied to other aspects of the game. But I don't know that we're going to go that route. We'll see.
Yeah, ultimately, it's going to come down to what's fun in Squad, and that'll be, what we end up going with based on the feedback that we collect and actually playing the game and seeing if it works. So,
right. And yes, I do vape. I know people will be like, "Oh, Vape Nation." Yeah, it's better than smoking cigarettes, kids. At least I think so far. Anyway, so go on. You had something else.
No, we're pretty good about rounding it out. We're coming up on the full hour. So, if you are going,
does it have to be only an hour?
It doesn't have to be an hour. Would you like to go more? Do we have any more questions that people want to kind of throw at us real quick? I mean,
Armor flesh looks stupid. That was what I'm saying, man. Like, a lot of this stuff is very can be very subjective. Like I know you try to objectively try it, or you objectively try to get a certain like player behavior that's conducive to gameplay, but even that can get hard because even when you achieve the effect, it may still be like something that a lot of people don't like, right? Like, yeah, sure, we're all suppressed, like crazy, and none of us are lifting our heads and everything, but then also nobody's playing anymore, nobody's shooting anymore, and everyone's just running away from each other because they're just constantly suppressed. So, like for example, like sure, your suppression worked, but now those people on the receiving end are pretty much like, well, this is dumb. And it might ruin their gameplay. So I mean, even whenever you kind of like objectively achieve your goals, sometimes it just doesn't end up being fun. You know what I mean? So like I'll just straight up say, for example, I don't like the way PR does it. I hated getting shot at by a machine gun and just like constantly blurred screen, like constantly dimmed and black and like and blurred, it was nonstop. It drove me up the wall, and the fact that I had to like run off into the distance just to get away from the damn guy, like to me that's not that great. I didn't find that amusing at all. I found that rather silly. So there's like, sure, to achieve the effect, I didn't want to look up because I couldn't see anything, but also I was staring at a blurred screen, like and it was not even blur, it's like you were almost blackout drunk, and that's not cool to me. Like I don't find that fun. So it's like trying to get the same effect but also keep it fun. It's
the delicate balance of trying to make a game fun. Yeah,
like you objectively got the player behavior you wanted, but now all of a sudden that aspect of the game is not fun anymore. So it's like trying to objectively get the player behavior, like the incentives in, but also still make it engaging or fun. So it's a challenge, and you have to have a very thick skin. I would say, as like also a side note, as if you want to be in a video game developer, like being able to take criticism a lot is a big part of it. That's probably one of the number one. I wouldn't say number one, but probably one of the top reasons why developers end up quitting the video game industry is just stress, whether it's from outside sources or just internally trying to crunch on a project, for 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting that like not everybody has the same vision too, so there's that friction of trying to decide what's best between multiple designers, and like it's not, we don't want to pin that on the community for being stressful. Every part of game design is stressful. And we were, kind of touching on some components that are coming to the game. I had actually asked you about this earlier today, even. Sahara wants to know about crewman kits and how they'll work.
Yeah, I'm actually looking right now at that. Yes, crewman kits, right now they're in test. And I think we only have one vehicle with them on right now for testing purposes. But it is implemented. There is a radial menu. Nope. The kit. So I created the kit and put it in. So you're going to see it in your squad roles, and you're going to see it on the ammo crates. And then certain vehicles will have their driver and gunner seats require it. So it is implemented. It is currently in test for QA. And then design we're actually actively today, as of today, discussing which vehicles we want to put it on. Right now, it's looking like we're going to go ahead and, well, I say cave for me because I kind of got converted a few months back, but more than likely you'll see it on the APCs, the IFVs, tanks, and aircraft whenever they come out. So like even the BTR will require it. The original, in case you guys didn't know, by the way, the original intent was that APCs strictly, like, and I'm talking about from an actual military perspective, right? An armored personnel carrier, not used for frontline fighting like they are now, was supposed to just be something that the squad could use. It was just going to be it's a squad vehicle. That was the intent. APCs were squad vehicles. You use it to transport your squad. It was all just you. You're the squad leader. That's your vehicle. You do what you want with it. Transport your guys, fight with it, whatever you want to do. Then IFVs were the heavy assets that were going to have a major impact on the game, and even realistically are more complex systems. Like they are dedicated roles, and so that was kind of the intent, was IFVs, tanks and aircraft would have them. APCs like the BTR-80 or the Striker or whatever would all be just infantry. Infantry could just use it. But I think at this point, we're probably going to end up actually putting them on the APCs as well, just because they're kind of used like IFVs anyways. And I think even when we put the Bradleys and tanks out, people are still going to use the BTR-82A, for example, as an IFV. So, you know, there you go. Dancing is a feature. Yes.
Yeah, there was some requests for the ability to make everybody on the server dance a la Fortnite after the last motion capture session too. Our guys at the Air Assault do a remarkable Gangnam Style.
I'll say yes. We will go ahead and implement the server admin's ability to force everybody to stop what they're doing and do like a dance nuke. Just nuke the whole server with dancing. That would actually be pretty hilarious.
Just air support, you know what? Drops a disco ball.
Everybody in the server is being toxic right now, so you're going to go ahead and dance with each other and learn to love each other. There you go. That's what we did in the military, right? Like, oh, you have a disagreement with your buddy? Good. Go get some 550 cord, strap yourself to him, and then you two are going to hold hands everywhere you go. You know, you're like, you will learn to love each other. Maybe we'll do that for our server admins. We'll make everybody dance. just break the tension, right?
Yeah, you know, we've talked a little bit about what's coming up. Doc Hammer, I believe, had a question about, you know, what is your vision for Squad over the next year or two? And I know you're not our studio head, but you can at least, you know, where would you love to see Squad at in a year? Just kind of in the hypothetical perfect world.
Released. Sucker. Gotcha.
And that is on the agenda. That's
yeah. I mean, as like the biggest generalized statement I could ever make, that'd be it, right? Like get 1.0 out the door. So as far as where I would like to see it, what exactly do you mean by that though? Like see it where?
I think he was just kind of looking for an overall grand vision of what the community would look like, the competitive scene, things like, you know, what does the ideal world look like for Squad in your mind, I guess, is kind of what he was getting at. I think that he's fishing more toward how do we want to support Squad as a competitive game, and how are we going to continue to support Squad as a community effort?
I would like to see us as one big happy family that loves to play the game pretty much any way that they so choose, and not be respectful of one another in how we decide to play these games as communities, because there are multiple communities within our game, and you know, at the end of the day, we're all here to, you know, to have fun and play the you know, do things that we're passionate about, you know, with obviously a lot of you guys that's playing Squad, myself included. So, you know, the future, I would like everybody to get along. I think, you know, even when it comes to like organized play or competitive play in Squad, I think that's great. I've always been a proponent of that. It doesn't matter how many, I don't know how many times I have to say it, but like that's actually one of my favorite ways to digest video content, for example. I love watching competitive play. So, I mean, that's something that we're actively looking at addressing right now. So I know ISKT, for example, has been retired, which is fine. I mean, there's been these things come and go in communities. Not the first time, especially when they're community run. You know, if they're official, things, you know, should work out differently. But we are looking at potentially improving that process, and also maybe getting a bit more involved, so that way, you know, we can kind of keep that aspect of the community going, I guess, in a certain sense, and in a healthy manner. That's how I'll put it, in a healthy manner. So, I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, my thing is like, I don't care if you want to play one life events, or if you want to make a straight milsim. I actually don't like the word milsim, by the way, in case anybody anybody wants to know. I'm not a big fan of the milsim word. Like, military simulation is actually used for like generals playing war games. Like, it's not. I know it's used now colloquially with like Arma and stuff, but pretty much like the guys who go for more realism, I guess you could say. You know, if they want to make like a super hardcore mod, I'm totally down with that. I think that's great. I'll probably play it. In fact, that'd probably be my favorite way to play Squad, to be honest. I would love to take away the map and all this other crap, and just be like, well, you're just thrown in the world, and you have to ID your targets, whether it's friendly or foe. Like, I don't even want name tags, you know?
And that kind of fits well with the heritage of where Squad came from, too, is a lot of Project Reality. Eve of Destruction in Battlefield was a very kind of more painful experience in a lot of ways. But yeah, like that is an option that we would all like to see alongside with people being able to build their own lairs and play how they want.
Yeah, but like I just my biggest thing is I would like to see everybody just get along. Just put it that way. Like because I personally enjoy all of it. I would love to watch competitive. I would love to play in a one life event. I would love to play in a super hardcore mod that the more realism oriented individuals play. And I don't think any one of them has any more merit than the other. And I think they should all respect each other. That's how I see it. That's how I would like to see Squad go in the future. It's how I would like to see the game and the community. You know, I guess this is more on the community side. We're not really necessarily talking about gameplay, but on the community side, that's how I see it. So yeah, but even with if we're talking about competitive specifically, like we are actually actively talking about getting a bit more involved in that process, I guess. So yeah, we're still looking at supporting it some form of fashion, even though with the caveat that like the game, no matter what, is not intended to be a competitive game. Like there's not intended. Sorry, it's not being built in that fashion. That is not the foundation of Squad. That's not how we are designing the game. Whether people like that or not, even the CEO and founder has told you guys recently that like at the end of the day, this game is not built to be competitive. If you guys want to take that path, then by all means. And like I said, in fact, we're actually gonna see if we can get about getting more involved in that process. But yeah,
Yeah, and I think the distinction there is important to say. Like, it's not a Rocket League where it is built for like esports play. Like, Squad is built to support competitive play. You can play Squad competitively. It's a really great way to do Squad. Sure. But it's not going to be, Dota 2 invitationals where people are fighting over it. Like, that's not the intent. And that's kind of more of the sense there rather than, we want to see competitive play. It's fun. Like you said, that's where the best video content that you enjoy comes from, is watching people play competitively.
Yes, sir.
And I think personally that it does add a little bit more of that life and death. We can't simulate the threat to human life in a game, but it does up the stakes a little bit. You get that a little bit more focus. You get the adrenal burst. Those are good ways of making a game count a little bit more, and absolutely want to continue to see people enjoy that.
Yep.
Do we have any future plans for vehicle crew communications? I know this has kind of been a topic that's been debated a lot in the community. There's ideas like, change local communication to vehicle comms when you get in, dedicate a button. Is this something that you would want to see? Is it something we have any plans for?
Yes. I would like all of that to occur. I don't know about all of that in the sense of like every single one of those points, 100%. But yeah, so improving the VoIP system has always been something that I wanted to do, but it's been kind of stuck behind one person. And that person is no longer dedicated to programming anymore. So it's more of it's really a resource issue with many things that we would like to do. It's just a resource issue at the moment. Improving the VoIP system is definitely a big one. We're trying to get feature complete. Technically, for example, like for an alpha, VoIP is in and it works, right? Like technically, the minimum requirements have been met. But as far as iterating on it and improving it, like big time. I would love to have, maybe the option to have each year have different radio channels, or at a minimum, like have some sort of ducking mechanic where, if, which would be an options where if another squad leader is talking to you, it would then like reduce the noise of your squad or whatever the case may be. So it doesn't completely mute people, but, and as far as like vehicle communication, like being able to set up like a crew communication channel would be fantastic. I would love to have these options as long as we could implement it smartly in a manner that isn't too clunky. Like at the end of the day, we don't want you to be like pulling up like a real radio and you're like, well, set the frequency and the channel, and you're like, oh, we're gonna oh, is this crypto on here? Like we don't want to take it that far, but yeah, giving options for players to communicate more effectively is like a pinnacle of Squad, to be fair. It's kind of where it hurts talking about it, because I'm like, yes, it is one of the most critical aspects of our game, but so is getting tanks and helicopters in, like I don't know. It's a hard one. It's one of those things where like as a game designer, we have to work together as a team. Right, like I have other considerations. I have a project lead and the artist's timeline, and the optimization work that engineers are doing at the time, what stuff like that. So, it's just comes down to a balancing act, and hopefully we get it right.
This may or may not be a quick one, depending on how it goes. But shotguns. Are we going to see shotguns?
Yes, I would say there's an extremely high chance that that's going to occur at some point. Yes, we are finally starting to get to a point where things like that are becoming more and more feasible. So yeah,
cool. I know I like my MCS in any
I think
any game.
I think the artists would be very sad if we never put shotguns in for all the amount of the time and effort they put in putting those in or making those. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing is a lot of the artists really do just love making models of the things they put in games. So there are passion projects that come out of that. So if there's something you love in games, there's probably an artist on our team that also really loves to do that in games. It's just a matter of making sure they have enough time to do it. Like in a similar situation, like the Voip system would love to do more with that, but we also got to get tanks in. Also got to, like these are things. But it also kind of plays into our long-term plan for Squad, where we know we have things to work on. We know we have things to upgrade and improve, and we want to do those. So that is definitely part of the plan.
Pheasant with, I don't know what that means. Will we see pheasants with shotguns?
I don't know if we have any pheasant choke planned. We might have turkey chokes planned, but
yes, gotcha. Drones are next. Hey, be careful. There might be. We're still planning on putting Commander in at some point, whether that be an expansion after 1.0 or whatever. Like you might see drones in the future. Ooh.
That would certainly be cool. Kind of talking about the Commander role.
Commander throws that shit out in the field. Maybe.
Points out like a Heisman Trophy. Yeah. Kind of taking that, just taking a step down from the Commander role. Dark Zeeds has just curious about, is there anything that we're thinking about to incentivize playing the squad leader role a little bit more? I mean, that is a crucial role to Squad, and it's often a controversial role where a lot of people don't want to step into it because it's hard. Yeah.
That is actually somewhat being taken over by Fuzzhead, so I can't really speak towards that right now.
Awesome. So that means we get to invite Fuzzhead in for one of these chats in the near future. And if you guys didn't catch it before, Fuzzhead is a new developer to OWI, but has a long history with Project Reality and has been brought aboard to help us make Squad a better game.
Yeah. So mostly because I'm not going to speak for him, I guess. But my point being that we've actually hired somebody who is going to be dedicating a lot of time. It's a big part of his job in the future, because right now obviously he's going through the onboarding and he's learning and whatnot, getting into the editor and learning how to make layers and stuff like that. So with time though, one of his primary functions is going to be improving user experience. A big part of that is going to be improving squad leaders' ability to effectively lead their squads, whether that's making it easier for them to lead or giving them more communication tools, that kind of thing. So he's actually we're going to be spending money, right? Like when a developer works on something, that's a company spending money to have somebody dedicate their time to improving squad leader. So I'm just saying, I'm not going to speak for him. If you bring him on, he can talk to that. So.
Yeah, I can say that he was a large part of the recap this past time around, and you're already seeing some of the UI and stuff updates to help squad leaders be more effective in the field. Those are coming, like the indicators on vehicles, things like that. We want to make it a little bit more friendly to actually get in there and do the job you need to do.
Yeah. Oh, I'll just hit up Reptio, I guess you said there. Just real quick, yes. I would love to expand on scoring to include driver assists and all that kind of cool stuff. Absolutely. Anyways, next, I just saw that real quick and I was like, yeah,
I think we both have a shared love of Planet Side 2, and seeing kind of more of the that trickle, the experience trickle is very important to that game. It does help incentivize those things a lot because you're being rewarded for playing. Yeah.
Exactly. We slowly put those things into. I don't know if people remember, but at one point drivers didn't get any score for dropping off logistics, or for driving. They do now, or they have for months now. But we slowly implement things. But yeah, absolutely, I would love to. I have it on my list as at some point when we have time. I want to be able to kind of expand more on the scoring system, so that way we get more rewards for players doing actions that we would like to see happen in the game, right?
Yeah, and in kind of the same vein, we've talked a little bit about territory control mode, and folks are curious about how does that develop? How is that developing? Where do you see it going? I mean, it's coming, sure, but
Yeah, it's actually being worked on. Same thing I was talking about with randomized, though. It sounds like it's not going to make it for V11. However, we're going to try to. There's like I mean, I would say like the basis of the prototype is pretty much there, but like all the UI, like it's actually one of the game modes that requires like map UI. So there's like a whole other aspect that we're going to have to iterate on. So it's probably not going to make it out for V11, but we might be seeing it during playtesting prior to V11. So we might actually get to see the initial implementation of it. You might be able to, you might see the prototype soon, actually being played. So that's really all I can speak about at the moment. Because I mean, other than that, like we've already talked about it. We've already posted an article in the recap a while back and stuff like that. Like it's yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds like something that should shake up kind of another way to play Squad, kind of like we were talking about, where we want those options for people to find the game they want to play within Squad. And just to kind of touch on some of the things that have been going on in the background, we've talked about it in Discord and stuff too. But like on some of the randomized maps, we've talked about hidden caches and stuff. Where I think normal maps have about 200, where we recently had our Resident Australian Chance put in about 800 caches to make it really diverse. So yeah, like there is a lot of handheld work going on to making sure that things like that do build into the maps, where you might not see it when you first come on, but we are iteratively adding things to the game to help build on what's there.
Yeah. We need to give him more to do, apparently. I don't know why. Anyways, when he told me that, I was like, "This is your first time, isn't it? Because that's gonna get real old after a while." Like that's how I started. I was like 400 on Samari, and then by the time I got you, like I did the Gorodoc one, for example, I was like, man, maybe like 150 is fine. As long as it's in the general area, it should be good. And like 800, guy was, yeah. You need to give him more to do, apparently. I don't know why he thought 800 was great. There's probably like a cluster, like 800. Was it like 20 of them just sitting in the same building? Like, I don't know what he's doing. Whatever, it's fine.
He is doing a good job. He's also one of the guys that's working. Of course, the entire mapping team is working on creating new maps, but revising.
He's a masochist, apparently.
He is a masochist, and that's why he's good at going back and optimizing some of the older maps. We had Kohat and Camdash kind of in the most recent recap. The Gorodoc's been mentioned before. They are going back through optimization and trying to build those, and that attention to detail does get used for making the game better. It's just we don't want him to have so many caches at a time.
3 in each room. That's what I'm talking about. That's nuts. You need like 1 or 2 per building. Crazy. Oh, whatever. It's fine. Hey, whatever you want to do there, Adam. Sorry, Axton. Got to remember to use their names online. Their online names online. Hey. Working on Anti-Aliasing by V19. Yes, actually, that'll be a paid DLC that you'll be required to purchase. No, I'm just kidding. Of course, Anti-Aliasing is something we're looking into. We want to make all of it better. I mean, the idea is like the more performance we can get, the more fidelity we can get. Like it's kind of this constant tug of war.
Yeah, and this is something that's actually being worked on this morning. There were people looking at how we can get in there and look at the anti-aliasing to make it better. We have developers looking at that explicitly because we know losing Reshade was a bummer. We're still really hopeful they'll come out with a version that works. But yeah, we are looking at visual fidelity and things like that for the people that want a little more color in Squad, and we know Unreal has a little bit of blurriness here and there. So those are things that we're looking at.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of that will come with when we start really hammering down like super hardcore in optimization. I mean, like the entire QA channel today, for example, has been nothing but optimization talks, like just nonstop profiling and analyzing, and it's like always on our minds. But there'll become a day where like the entire team's just going to be hammering on that, and we're going to hopefully be getting a lot of help, whether it be through a new engine upgrade with Unreal 4, or getting just help from Epic themselves, that kind of thing. Anyways,
we've had a couple questions. I think it's generally we'll just go. Generally, we've revealed some of the things that are coming with the British. Are we ready to talk about anything else? Is there what kind of kit gear can we expect in for the British to be popping up?
Kind of kit. I mean, they're not getting anything special compared to the rest of the factions, I guess you could say. Yeah, the AT4. Woo!
Yeah, I know we've seen the AT4. That's come out. And that's going to be a badass, especially on the improved damage model.
Yeah,
there was. I think we may have teased the L85 and recently in the recap, and I think somebody spotted some cool sights there too.
Oh, well, okay. So, I mean, if you mean, well, I guess I thought you meant like new, unique British specific gadgets or something. Like,
No, I think people are just kind of curious
yeah.
what we'll be seeing to kind of give the British some flavor.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, if you would like to go and check up on some of the gear they've been using in the past decade, as far as their weapons and stuff are concerned, like probably be a pretty good representation of what's going to be in there. So, I mean, just all of their standard infantry rifles they use, their their DMRs, their machine guns they use, or I guess they call them the GPMGs, that kind of thing. I mean, all those are pretty much going to be in. I think I'm pretty sure we've shown the SUSAT, but we've also shown some of their more ACOG looking style optics. So as far as like some unique flavor, like sure they are their own country with their own weapons they use in their infantry, but as far as like any unique gadgets or anything, like no, it's still going to be like rifles, pistols, machine guns, rocket launchers, that kind of thing.
But rest assured, some of your favorite British weapons will definitely be represented in Squad, because how could they not be?
Right, yeah. I mean, I could go in the editor right now, I guess, and like look up every single weapon that we have for the British right now, but like just generally assume the British faction's going to have what you would expect them to have for their infantry.
And here's a community question that we can both kind of chime in on from Asta 85 is there are so many voices out there saying different things. Who does the community turn to just kind of figure out where it's all coming in? And yeah, we agree. There is a lot going on out there, and that is something that we are working on. A lot of that is incumbent upon us to make sure that we're getting the information out to you as best as possible. We're doing a lot more to try to make sure that things get pulled in from Reddit. We're obviously using our official channels to have chats like this a little bit more. Always be sure to check the blog. The Discord community server is a fantastic place to kind of stay up to date and get the latest information, by and large, because the community is so active and helpful that they are willing to help us with that. We are trying to make sure that we are getting a little bit more centralized with information distribution. We're working on a new website, things like that. We want to make sure that you can hear what's going on in Squad. We realize that not everybody wants to crawl through a Reddit thread, or not everybody wants to crawl through a forum thread, so that is one of our concerns that we are working toward.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, what would you say ultimately is probably like the best way to kind of go about intaking your information right now? Because I mean, for me personally, I would say, like, at the end of the day, unless you've seen it directly from us, right? Like whether it's a forum post, like one of the developers says a sentence on Discord, or an actual quotable reply in Reddit, like, if somebody says something, I would suggest you always take it with some skepticism until they can like actually like source what they're saying. At the end of the day, like don't just be like, okay, well, that sounds interesting, but like where'd you get that information? That kind of thing. So I mean, that's right now, that's what I would say. Like, don't just because somebody says it doesn't mean it's true. Like, unless you officially see it or hear it, like, I don't know. What do you think? I mean, obviously, like he just mentioned, we are going to try to at least provide some tools potentially, to kind of help like streamline that process. So there's like a more centralized location for people to get information. But otherwise, like, I don't know. What would you say in the meantime?
I really like Discord server as an aggregator, just because we have, the active mod team is in there. We have developers in there. There's also modders, and like, there is always going to be somebody in there that knows the right answer and can probably be verified by the developer if you ask in there too. So that's a really good place. But yeah, the major updates are always going to appear on joinsquad.com. We're going to make sure that we have blog posts that are getting you patch notes, information. We have the Steam page as well, which is not always going to be as media rich as the homepage, so definitely recommend going there. But yeah, and reach out to us. Hit us on Twitter, Facebook. We try to be pretty responsive. But yeah, and I think Discord is probably the best kind of community aggregator for news and updates.
What are they talking about? Real life engagements, other than Fallujah? Oh, okay. Does so? They just mention Camdish. Does he know that we're actually putting in Camdish in V11? Anyways, yeah, I mean, obviously we have Fallujah. I'm not really entirely sure what he means by implement maps where real life engagements occurred. Most of the Afghan, I would say all of them, right? Like people fought in Kora Valley.
Yeah, we've actually had people write in and tell us that they found their patrol route in Kora Valley that they could simulate, and it took them back to their so. Yeah, those are really based on real world locations, and we're going to continue to use those as a basis for the real world conflicts that Squad tends to kind of simulate.
No, there's something else. Reptio was talking about too, as far as communication. So kind of going back, we were saying, on mobile. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. I was about to say, I'm pretty sure the subreddit already tags all dev responses, and most of the devs, if not all of them, who are on the subreddit have a development tag on them. So I'm not really sure. I guess maybe some people have like their own dedicated mobile accounts. I don't know. I like even on mobile, I use my same account that I use on my PC. So it's like if I reply on my phone, it's still going to show up with my dev flare, and the thread will be tagged as dev response. So I feel like it's pretty easy if you're going through Reddit to find dev responses because they're all tagged. So, but I guess maybe some people don't get tagged because they're not on their dev tagged accounts. I guess that might be something we have to look into then. Like maybe we need to set a community standard for our developers that they need to make sure that all of their accounts have it or something. Or if they're going to reply in an official capacity, they need to have their flare on.
Yeah, and we can also make sure that we reach out to the Reddit staff and make sure that's happening too, because like Fuzzhead is a new developer, so it might be a case of just aren't flagged yet.
Oh, okay. By the way, let me set this straight. This is again, this with anything, we'll have to reiterate. Like, you need to verify claims. This is just general life advice, by the way. Like, have a healthy dose of skepticism. This whole downgrade your GPU talk or whatever, that was not an official OWY person who said that. I don't know if you guys saw that or realized this, but that wasn't OWI telling them to do that. I don't know where people think, like I said again, just because somebody posted it doesn't make it true.
And I think that might have come out of Discord, and if people aren't aware, Discord can be edited like HTML to make it say anything. So be very skeptical of screenshots of text. That's an important lesson to learn.
Yeah, and what was funny though is that even that being the case, the person responsible for allegedly saying that or whatever is not even an OWI employee. So it's just like I said, try to be a bit more mindful about where you get your information.
And for real, good luck if you're trying to do anything with the graphics card the way the Bitcoin farming has been going.
Okay, so what else is there?
Ooh, this is a good question. And it might be for more mappers, but we focus on the Arabic Slavic settings for map. Do we have any urban or jungle maps? Are there plans for adding something like more South American guerrilla or Asian groups? I don't think we necessarily have to go to different factions, but I think you could speak to game design in different areas of the world too, like urban centers and countryside.
They're just asking like if we're going to go into other theaters or like
other more biomes? Diverse environments, things that we haven't really seen yet. Where we are, there's a lot of Basra, there's a lot of Gorodok, like those are well known, and some of it's just the need to have something new to play with too.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, obviously, we're going to have a little bit more Middle East, of course, because of Fallujah. It's going to be a huge one. Just to put in perspective, by the way, like I would say the PR's Fallujah only accounts for maybe a quarter of the entire Fallujah we're building. So, have fun with that one.
Yeah, there is a Road to Fallujah preview that does show that that much of the original map is what's contained. Like there's a whole
it's a whole new area, which is going to have several different areas in it they'll be different from each other. So like even in one map there'll be kind of like a different feel to some areas. But yeah, obviously we have the Eastern European biome. I'm just gonna call them biomes because it's what we use in games now, I guess. And of course, we have the Afghan biome. Now, as far as future projects, yes. So a long time ago, when there was talks about whether or not we're going to do Marines or the U.S. Army, well, obviously, when I joined the team, they were definitely doing U.S. Army, and then I tried to finagle my way in a little bit to get the Marines in instead. But what you guys may or may not know, but the U.S. Army models are actually kind of intended to be to also work as a Marine model. So I know some people are like, "Well, the combat shirt isn't exact." Like, it's not for a reason. In case we ever want to be to make a Marine faction, for example. Now, I'm saying that because eventually, me personally, I would like to get into like amphibious warfare, whether that be like island hopping or like tropical locations and jungle locations. Being able to, and that's one of the reasons why I want to do Marines instead of Army is because if you put Marines in, as far as real like authenticity, that's people are going to be like, well, Army does beach landings too. Like, sure, but it's not really their primary function. Like we have our entire branch is dedicated to amphibious doctrine. It just so happens that we had to retroactively or fit in modern warfare stuff into it. But even today, we still practice amphibious warfare. So like for me, I just like the versatility. Like you could put Marines in the Middle East, you could put them in Eastern Europe, you can put them on land, but you could also get them out in the Pacific Ocean. You could get them into Asia. Like that you would have your amphibious assault vehicles with them already. You would have all of your LCUs and LCACs and all of your all of the naval ships that require to carry a MEU. You can look that up. It's MEU. You can look it up if you want. Marine Expeditionary. So that's where I would like to see it go. Nothing's necessarily planned, but that's where I like to see it go.
This is another good question that a couple people have asked: is there like a pathway for mods to get in game? Are we ever going to pick mods from the community to put them into Squad? And I think I would prime that by saying we've sort of already done that, but I would like to hear.
Yeah, sort of already kind of done that. You like to hear my take?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't necessarily know the history of some of the maps, and kind of what got us to that point with them. I guess is kind of mostly it's just us sitting around watching somebody do some draw dropping stuff and being super impressed. But
it sounds like that's more like Axton and some other individuals' area, not really so much mine. I will say, I guess, kind of as a generalized statement, as far as the business is concerned, we definitely want to be supporting modding. Like that is going to be a very aspect of it, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. I mean, we already, well, like you said, we already kind of have, but yeah, even financially supporting it to some degree. I don't know what that's going to look like. Obviously, we don't want another like Steam Workshops problem, but yeah, I mean, we definitely do want to continue to support that, and we'll even be investing probably some money into that aspect. We have some. Oh, Dave's in there now apparently. Yeah, but as you stated, we've actually already kind of done that. For example, we actually have somebody now part of the dev team who's a paid employee who we've implemented their maps now. And as far as like actual different mods, so I know like in the future, for example, actually getting those mods to be easier to download and more accessible, and kind of maybe reworking how we do the whole like custom versus official like licensing and stuff like that. Like we are working towards trying to get these to be a bit more viable, and then also being able to support them. I guess like the latest example, right, is servers cost money. Well, we spun up our own server for modders to like use their mods on officially. So I mean, we're slowly working there.
Yeah, and if you guys aren't familiar with that, check out the Squad Modding Roundup. They'll be putting on, I think, 1930 UTC tomorrow. There'll be an event.
Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah,
they are a weekly event that actually showcases some of the coolest mods from the Squad community, works with modders to get them actual time on the server, and there is a dedicated server for you to go and play some of the coolest mods in Squad right now.
So I'll leave. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
As I said, yeah, there's an event weekly on Saturdays and they're going to be kicking off at like 1930 hours CTC tomorrow.
Yeah. So I will leave it at this. And I'm not speaking for the company, but it has been discussed. I mean, personally, as far as the business is concerned, I have no problem, for example, working with the team, a modding team who's like creating a whole new faction, right? Like if there's an entirely new faction that is, you know, like near completion or going to be complete, and it's of you know, what we consider good quality, and we feel that it's conducive to squad, like I don't see any reason why we wouldn't add that as part of the vanilla product. Um, yeah, I mean, like if like me, for like, I would love to see a German faction, for example. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I think we've
And
seen some people looking at maybe some German weapons, but we haven't seen a full German skin yet. And as Friendly Nikolai just
yeah,
mentioned, the Finnish Defense Force mod is doing an excellent job of kind of building up faction. Like they really are building out what it takes to build a squad faction. So it's been super cool to watch that.
yeah, yeah. I think Dave's kind of talking, but he's kind of off on something else a little bit here. But I just thought it was a side note because I think this actually came up in GDC. I was talking to another artist about it, but I thought it was funny how like our 3D scanning went the other way, I guess. They were talking about like how some companies will like 3D scan a guy completely kitted out for the character models, or the 3D scan like weapons. We decided to 3D scan vehicles first, pretty much. So I don't know if you guys remember, we actually had the tank 3D scan like article we had a while back. I think that was last year, like in the summer or something like that, but in the UK. But yeah, like we're definitely we definitely do some interesting takes here. Yeah, he's talking about right now. Tanks went really well. Anyways, okay, go on. Continue, sir.
Sorry, I was trying to nail us a date on that.
Sure.
So hang on a sec. I've lost my window.
Which I think is really cool, by the way. Like seeing an entire tank be 3D scanned is just ridiculous, in my opinion. But
Oh, and
hey,
somebody did
man,
ask about photogrammetry, and that is something we get used. I think it's usually up to the individual artist to kind of choose how they want to go about it, but it is some technology that at least I have seen one of our artists do and been really impressed by.
yeah, Dave's been talking about it. We actually use. I'm like 99.9999% positive. We actually already use photogrammetry in some of our environments. So, yeah, yeah, it's something that our artists are always messing around with.
Oh, yeah, there's a good rule from the thumb. The shinier the object, the more messy it gets, is probably a good takeaway on that topic from Drav.
Oh, so I've seen this a couple times. Get some light in your home. Oh, I actually closed my actually closes one side of my window because I thought it was too bright. You know, I'll screw this up if you want.
And now you've gone and done it. I actually had to go block out my window there with paper bags this morning so you could actually see that I had a human figure. So
Is that better? Am I brighter? Yeah. Somebody mentions, where was it? Shadow system. I think that's something else too that Dave or Aston can speak towards. But yeah, there's definitely um, an ongoing process for getting a new way that we do shadows. Yeah, trying to pretty much essentially like trying to get the distance field shadow stuff to work again, which we've learned a lot more recently, I guess you could say, or over time. So we're giving another crack, and I think Iron Taxi's been doing some work on that. Yeah, we're implementing distance. Yep. So there you go. Um,
and a cool call out right here that Dravid's answered in chat that people have asked for is that we have a long-term plan to make ammo a lot more accessible throughout the battlefield. The first is being able to rearm at some vehicles and then ammo bags after A11. So ammo bags are coming. A lot of people have asked for that for a long time. It's still on the pipe. It's getting closer. That is a cool thing that we are looking at. And like I said, vehicle damage is something we talked about earlier, where we want to make people be able to survive in the field a little bit longer without it being like super overpowering. So that is one of those things that, we want staying power out there. We want to make sure you guys have more options in the field.
yeah. Did we mention that recap too? Like I read that whole thing.
I don't think it made it into the recap, but it was Drav did. I mean, we've talked about it internally recently, and Drav mentioned in chat, so it was worth mentioning. That a lot of people have been curious about that and had explicitly even asked earlier in the chat if we were going to be able to rearm from vehicles and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's implemented. But that also means right now, anyways, because it's not like a dedicated inventory item or anything, that that ammo is also used for fobs. At least since the last I heard from Norby was like you can get ammo off of a vehicle, but that vehicle can also drop that ammo off at a fob. So, and you can also pick up ammo from a fob and move it to somewhere else. So yeah, there's definitely going to be a bit more proliferation of ammunition on the battlefield, which you know hopefully will work out well, especially since we don't allow like picking up stuff at the moment.
Right, and you can kind of see, like, we had previously implemented the, building materials, ammunition switch, and redid that on the logistics trucks not too long ago. And so you can kind of see where these pieces start building on each other and coming more into where we want to go. So it's cool to see, at least from my perspective.
Yep.
Copernicus has been dying to have this one answered, and there's been some other folks that have wondered if we were ever, A, going to have earplugs for the mortar assaults, and B, are there any plans to address how mortars work in-game in any sort of capacity?
Not currently, and you're just gonna have to put up with it. The no earplugs thing. Sorry, man. It's suckers are loud.
And that is coming from a former Marine mortarman, if I'm not mistaken.
I am yeah, out of the I can't even remember now. 40%? Yeah, 40% of my so 40% disabled, 10% of it is hearing loss due to mortar fire. So yeah. Yep.
So that is another way of dealing with it over the long term, is just to lose your hearing, but it's not necessarily recommended or encouraged. So
go to your local store and buy yourself some earplugs and just put them in before you put your headset on.
This is one you might not know about, but people are curious: is there going to be a way to change the texture quality in the future? And I know we've been adding some more options like name tag opacity that have been requested, but I don't know if we've talked about this one.
Where are we going with this?
I mean, cynically speaking, somebody might be trying to figure out if we're ever going to add weapon skins where you can get your neon M4 out there, but
that sounds like it's kind of moving outside of my realm, man.
Yeah, no, it just it had popped up a couple times in the question and wondered if you had anything to say about it, but I figured that might have been outside of your domain a little.
I don't. No. When it comes to adjusting texture quality, I do not have any information on that. We'll have to wait for an engineer or something to get on here.
Yeah. Bearing Tom wants to know, we've talked about an inventory system to squad, how, I mean, we've kind of touched on that a little bit with vehicles holding ammunition and stuff like that. Are we going to see more iterative development on that? Is more coming in that pipeline?
I don't have anything on that right now. The way thoughts has been on like core inventory and stuff has kind of changed, so or has shifted in the way it's being done. So
yeah, and a lot of these systems are things that get a little bit like they're put aside as we're focused on something right now. Like you mentioned, you're focused on creating layers and working with weapon values, and like that's your primary focus. So trying to do kind of the random access memories of what's going on in other parts of the world, or you have to go read the design doc, catch up, see where everybody's at, kind of thing. So it's sometimes hard to pull that out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, if you just ask my opinion, like I would absolutely love to continue on with the plan of actually getting the ability to have an inventory that a player can access, whether it be on a vehicle or themselves, and then be able to adjust what their kit is based on their class, right? So I mean, I'm not saying that a rifleman would then suddenly pick up a 240 in their inventory, but that's like we've always talked about, like you can adjust how much ammunition you can bring or how many grenades you have it, by managing your weight and whatnot, and being able to like carry 249 ammo. Like say you want to carry a box of saw ammo, you got to give up 2 magazines, that sort of thing. So I mean, I would love to still see that, but right now it's, as far as I can tell, not really on the board at the moment. So I don't know. That's one of those like, you know what? If Dave ever wants to, or Drav, if he ever wants to get on here and do a stream, you can ask him because he's a project lead. So
yeah, he's on my hit list to get on the stream as well as Mother Deer and some other folks. But if you folks do have requests from people you'd like to hear from, holler. You know, we have access to a pretty cool dev team, and they're happy to talk usually.
Yeah.
If you missed it in the past, we had Accident and Chance talking about mapping. We've got some more content planned by Chance for mapping too, so look for more videos and stuff coming out in the future.
Yeah.
And on that mark, or in that regard, Skittles and Beer wants to know: is there any place that we can turn to for questions or concerns veterans have with scenarios and things that are going on in Squad? And I do want to point out again, we have the community feedback Discord. You can reach out to Nordic Socialist to get your community involved in that. You can always post on the forums. We're listening. These are these are concerns that we know you have, and we do want to listen. And there are veterans on the team that have been there too, and can probably have that dialogue with you if you want to reach out. So yeah, contact us. I mean, we are open to hearing what you have to say. And like I said, we've heard back from people that's like, hey, I found my patrol route here. It was crazy to play this game and be back there again. Like those are things that happen. So we love that feedback. We like to hear it, positive, negative. Hit us up with it.
Yep. Well, is there anything else? I would say it's kind of going on almost 2 hours here, so I would say it's probably a good time to start wrapping it up. I still got a few more things to do before my next meeting.
Yeah, and well, let me leave you with this then. What's coming to V11 that you're excited about? What do you want to play most when we release that patch?
Ooh, that's a good one. What am I most excited about? Can I be excited for something I'm not really that into? I don't know. I'm not a big vehicle guy. Like I'll get in and play, and I'll probably do well. I usually do well, but like I'd rather be on the ground more than anything. So, but like I'm really excited to see what the Bradley's gonna do. That's a hard one to answer as a developer. Just because I love the game. So I'm really excited to see toes in action and whatnot. Man, but if I had to pick, right, life or death, if I had to pick, what would it be? Camdish. I think I just want to play Camdish. Yeah, I think that would be it. Just want some really nice, solid games in Camdish.
Yeah, I want to take an IFE down that road and die horribly, but it's going to be cinematic as hell. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, so it's like I'm not a huge vehicle user, but I think it'll be amazing as infantry to like work with Bradleys. That just sounds awesome. Yeah, as a Marine, I didn't really get to do that a lot, and it's a pretty cool vehicle. So, I think that would be really fun. I don't know, just the idea of like just being in a fight next to one, just this big hulking beast, just like firing tow missiles and stuff. I don't know, it just sounds awesome. So, I'm pretty excited about that. But yeah, I think Camdish just looks like a really awesome map to play. As far as like, yeah, I'm really hopefully as long as we get to it. What I'm really looking forward to though is getting into like V12. Um, just working on the next aspect, and hopefully getting in. Like I said, hopefully getting in territory control and randomized AAS. I think those two are going to be pretty big. So, and I'll be, especially as a designer, I'll be really interested to see how those two play out. So,
I have one last one, and I'm going to limit you to a one-word response on this one. It comes from this jackass in chat named Nordic Socialist.
oh
He
Lord.
wants to know, what were your first impressions on meeting Nordic?
First impressions. I don't know if I even remember the first time I met Nordic.
One word.
Oh, one word?
One word answer.
Ooh. Passionate.
Alright, there you go, Nordic. Probably not what you hoped for, but we'll make an emote for you to make it up to you later. That's all we have for you today, guys. Thank you for joining us. We kind of went a little bit longer than we anticipated, so hopefully you stuck with us through that. We're going to be doing this again. We're going to have different developers, so if you would like to hear from specific people, let us know. We'll be sure to let you know when we're going to do it. It's going to be fun. And again, tomorrow there's the modding recap. Don't forget that. Level Gaming has also been doing some great modding events, so check those out. We're also going to have a feedback roundtable if you've been involved in that. So it's going to be a busy weekend for Squad. Hang out, check it out. We've got more coming. V11's in the pipeline, and we'll let you know what's cooking when we get there. Thank you for tuning in.
Are we done?
Now we are.
Is this nightmare over?